My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for choosing us. 15 out of 21 banks that have released their 2022 audited financial statement registered losses. These records losses are as a result of the domestic debt exchange program, which triggered the investment assets to be impaired. There's more in this news desk report.
Consolidated Bank was the biggest casualty, recording about 2 billion cedis losses in 2022. Indeed, the local banks were the biggest losers. But the good thing is that they have swiftly recovered in Q1 of this year, recording some good profits. The 6 banks that recorded profit last year included GT Bank, Societe Generale, FBN Nigeria, and UBA. For impaired assets, Absa Bank was the biggest loser, writing off 2.12 billion cedis. It was followed by Consolidated and GT Bank, which also wrote off 2.11 and 2.08 billion cedis respectively. FBN Bank, Bank of Africa, and Omni BSIC were the least affected. With regards to the capital adequacy ratio, which is a key financial soundness indicator, Consolidated Bank fell far below the industry threshold. FBN Nigeria, Access, and GT Bank, however, recorded the largest capital adequacy ratio of 57, 37, and 36% respectively in the banking industry. Joy Business had earlier reported that banks in Ghana lost about 15 billion cedis in 2022 due to the domestic debt exchange program.
Joining us live for more on this is banking consultant Christian Techijan. He will be doing some analysis on this development. Mr. Techijan, this certainly is not good for the banking sector.
Definitely, Aisha. Good morning to you and good morning to all our viewers. Surely it doesn't look good. Looking at what the figures are presented to us, if you have just about 5 or 6 banks out of the total 23 that are making profits, it doesn't look good. But in hindsight, you can give them a bit of a respite, and it's not too dire of a situation as it is being made to seem. If you look at it with impairment, normally, so far as there is a risk associated with a particular investment, then we can make provision for it. But with the provisioning, definitely, so far as government with the rescheduled bonds, the bonds that are going to be paid later, so far as they start coming in, government starts making those payments, they all come back into the profitability kitty, where certainly whatever is coming in will come back in a form of other income that will affect the bottom line. So it doesn't look good on the picture, but then hindsight, it is not too dire of a situation because these are bonds that have been rescheduled. So far as they come in, they'll be reclassified and the money will come back into other income for it to affect the bottom line.
In public. Hello, Mr. Techijan. If you can hear me, I'm asking what this means for the banking public.
Yes, for the banking public, there's been a lot of backlash the last couple of days when some of these figures were released. The banking sector has actually gone through a lot. 2016, 2017, there was a lot of confidence that was lost within the sector, but there were certain gains that were being made until the crisis that we find ourselves with this domestic debt exchange program, and I would say the confidence in the sector is actually going down. But it is not a lost battle. I strongly believe that once those bonds start coming in, government starts making payments for those maturities that will be coming in, I'm sure people will begin to feel confident again in the banking sector. But for now, it doesn't look good. But we hope that things will get better.
From what you know, Mr. Techijan, what are the elements that accounted for the losses?
Yes, normally, like I did indicate earlier, so far as an investment suffers a risk element, with the IFRS reporting template, you have to make provision for them. So far as government wasn't sure how we were going to deal with the bonds that were maturing or matured bonds that were not being paid, definitely they were suffering some sort of risk elements, and definitely provisions had to be made on them. So a lot of these provisions resulted in the impairments. That is why, so far as impairments also happen, it is taken off the bottom line, and surely it is going to affect the profitability.
Would we have been telling a different
That is what is
story?
happening. But so far as we see from next year, come again, Aisha.
Go ahead, Mr. Techijan, I'm listening.
Yes. So far as some of these monies will come back, once government begin to issue the bonds and the repayment starts coming in, they will come back to the banks in a form of other income, and surely to affect the bottom line. So for this year and next year, we don't expect to see very different picture from what we are seeing now. But subsequently, 3 years when the bonds have actually matured and all the impairments that were made, and we are beginning to plow them back into the other income portfolio, then we begin.
Hello, Mr. Techijan.
It's affecting the bottom line. Reclassification. Some of the banks have already started doing reclassification. If you look at CBG, for example, for this quarter, they've made very good profitability. If you look at GCB, they've made over 300 million. That is from the loss of 535 million that was made last year. So these are very good figures that are coming in. So definitely there's going to be recovery. It is not going to be like this. I'm sure by next quarter, which is half year 2023, we should be seeing these banks making very good profit, because all the impairments that were made, they are going to reclassify those assets, and they will come in to boost the profitability.
Would we have been telling a different story if there was no debt restructuring?
Absolutely, absolutely, because a lot of these impairments are due to the domestic debt exchange program that a lot of these banks have actually participated fully, and it's affecting their portfolio. So subsequently, it's going to get better. And certainly, though the banks actually made losses of over 4 billion in terms of loan losses, it wouldn't have affected them that much. This is the very first time we are seeing a lot of the banks out of the 23 that are making losses. Normally, you will have had just about 2 or 3 in the loss-making brackets, but it's the other way around this time, and it's mainly due to the effects of the domestic debt exchange program, because government have actually rescheduled these repayments. And so far as repayments are not coming through with a proper reporting system, you have to make provision for it. Therefore, the impairments.
I hear you say that once the bonds mature, things may begin to pick up. But of course, as some bonds mature, some bonds also begin to take effect. I mean, what can we do going forward to avert some of these losses?
Yes, talking about the maturity, it is one thing the bonds maturing and one thing receiving repayments for it. So it's all dependent on the government of the day. If the government will actually be going by the dictates and the agreement that they've reached with a lot of these banks, and so far as the bonds mature and repayments are received, they will be reclassified, and it will actually come back to help boost the profitability. So it all depends on how governments treat the repayments of the rescheduled bonds that we have domestically.
Christian Techijan, I'm grateful for your time. He's a banking consultant. He's been speaking about the losses recorded by some banks in their 2021-2022 audited financial report released recently. Meanwhile,